Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of the Moving Up podcast presented by me, Adam Barlow, and that's all for today, I'm afraid to say. So it's just me in the studio, Adam Barlow. There's no Alfie Walker sat opposite. It's sad. The studio feels empty without him. It's tricky not having anyone to bounce off of, but you may have noticed there's no episode 18 for Moving Up podcast this week. We're just very busy, both of us. We are final year journalism students at Bournemouth University. And as you can imagine, the dissertation workload is it's piling on. It is piling on at the moment. And Alfie is at home as we speak, doing a content analysis. He's knees deep in it, and he's obviously working through that like a studious little man. So fair play to him there. I decided to come on in and do a bit of a break from research and writing, I suppose, and just, wet your taste buds with a bit more Moving Up, because, consistency is key when you're podcasting, guys. That's the number one tip. So I thought a little life update first. Last week, I was lucky enough to go along to Leeds University. I wonder if anyone said that before. I was lucky enough to go to Leeds. No, it was a lovely city. It's the furthest north I've ever been in the UK, so it was exciting to see a new city. It felt a lot like London, but just up north, and people were kinder as well. People say this a lot, that the north is just a friendlier place. They drink their Yorkshire tea and they all just hug each other. And honestly, I've got nothing to detest that. I think lovely people up there. One of my highlights actually was when we got in an Uber and the driver said, after there was someone in front that did a horrendous U-turn, he just went, "Oh, you naughty potatoes." I was like, what? And I was like, I'm using that. I'm sorry, mate. Can I coin that? What a lovely phrase. So next time Alfie annoys me, I'm going to call him a naughty potato and see what he says. Anyway, I went there for the Student Radio Association conference, which is held in a different city each year at a different university. And this year it was in Leeds. And it's basically where student radio committees can head along and meet all these incredible industry professionals. So I got to meet the likes of Jordan North, who's on the all-new Capital Breakfast show. I got to meet Sam and Danny from BBC Radio 1, Amy Vivian, again from Capital, and even the head of BBC Radio 1, Aled Hayden-Jones, which was pretty surreal. Lovely man as well. He was one of the judges for the Demo Factor, which is where you play out your radio demo, and I didn't submit one. I was too scared. I was too busy. But my mate Jacob did it, who's also on the Nerve Radio Committee here at Bournemouth Uni, and I edited his demo for him. And I've got to say, I was sweating my cobs off. I was so nervous because not only do they critique your presenting, they also have a go sometimes if your fades are too long or if there's too much music and not enough talking. And I didn't realise it was that serious, right? So I just kind of hurriedly put this together for him. He'd submitted it the next day, like a matter of hours before the deadline for it. It was basically like an X Factor type or Britain's Got Talent sort of show, right? And the buzzers were so loud and I was just sinking into my seat with fear. And then lo and behold, Jacob Dyer's name comes up, his demo starts playing, and I've never been more nervous in my life. Thankfully, he got very good feedback, and he only got buzzed once, and it was in the last second as well, because they play up to a minute, and then it stops anyway. But at 59 seconds, Mr. Aled Hayden-Jones buzzed him, which, we're not angry about. We're not angry about. Trust his knowledge, trust his thoughts on radio stuff. Of course we do. Head of BBC Radio 1, he's going to know his stuff. But in the last second, come on, Aled. Come on, mate. Oh, anyway, what are you playing at? I also got to meet LBC's Charlotte Lynch, which was pretty cool. And Nerve Radio as well. We won a few Amplify Awards, including Hero of the Moment for Techman Dan, which was nice. So a little shout out to him there. But it was lovely. It was lovely stuff. There are also a few podcast talks that I went to. So hopefully we've got some more knowledge about production and things like that. So over summer we should be prepped. We know what tech to get. And we know how to podcast now. We're now experts at this. Joe Rogan, Steve Bartlett. Is it Steve Bartlett who does the CEO diary thing? Yeah, I think it is. We're coming for you, mate. We are coming. Anyway, should we talk some movies? Should we talk some films? What have I seen recently? I saw a bit of a throwback, actually, on Disney+. I watched Speed for the first time. It stars Keanu Reeves, who was looking very baby-faced, and it was lovely to see him maybe have a bit more character than John Wick. Not that John Wick's bad, I absolutely love those movies. They are some of my favourite films in the last decade, but it's nice to see Keanu Reeves have more than 5 words to say. And it stars Sandra Bullock as well, which I forgot. I didn't know she was in this. And she turns up as this passenger on the bus that has to sort of take the wheel. But if you've never heard of the film before, it also stars Jeff Daniels from Dumb and Dumber, and Dennis Hopper as well. He's brilliant in this. Very, very menacing. But if you've never seen the film before, it's basically a terrorist has put a bomb on this bus, and if it drops below 50 miles an hour, the bomb explodes. But they're not allowed to take any hostages off, and they can't really... I mean, they do eventually call for backup, but it's a really difficult situation. As you can imagine, there's loads of traffic. They get onto a highway, and at one point, it's not finished. So they have to do a jump, which is ridiculous. It goes more and more over the top, but it actually is so much fun. And it's such a classic 90s action film. It's almost a bit stupid, but it's got Die Hard vibes, and it's great. It's brilliant. I loved it, and 100% recommend it if you haven't seen it already. Sits at 76% on Rotten Tomatoes and 7.3 on IMDb. So yeah, it's pretty well respected, and it was a lot of fun, and great bit of content to watch on like a weekday night. It's only an hour and about 2 hours, hour and 56 minutes it says here. So would recommend that one. I also saw a film with Nicolas fucking Cage. Sorry for the F-bomb, that was Nicolas Cage, not me. It's called Dream Scenario. Came out in the last few months, and I remember it flying a little bit under the radar. It didn't even get played at the Odeon, I don't believe, but Cineworld had it on, and a couple other nearby cinemas. But I missed it because I had a few assignments at the time. A quick synopsis of it is Nicolas Cage plays a curmudgeonly university lecturer called Paul Matthews. He's very bland and quite forgettable. I think he looks very average, just an average old-ish man in his 50s or 60s, and he's got a heart of gold, right? He wants the best for his family, and he kind of wants a bit of a legacy. So he wants to write this book, but he's been very nervous to start, and he hasn't really got much to his name. And eventually he starts showing up completely randomly in people's dreams, and then initially it's just like circles of friends, and they're like, hang on, did you dream about Paul as well? I don't know what this is about. And then it becomes a wider thing, and then it soon becomes a worldwide phenomenon that everyone is having dreams about Paul Matthews for no reason. He's not doing anything in the dreams. He's in like nightmares as well, and he's coming up to people and stabbing them, or he's in the back of a sex dream, just sat there, or he'll walk by the window and just wave, and that's it. So it's played quite straight. It's described as an American black comedy fantasy, but I would say it's more of a drama. There are funny moments in it, but I would say beyond the first half of the film, it actually becomes quite dour and a little bit depressing. I really did feel very sad at the end of the film, which is totally the vibe that it wants to give you. But man, it really struck me. It's played very straight, and it's very serious. It says a lot about people's representations of other people and how you perceive things, but also a lot about cancel culture as well, because Paul obviously doesn't do anything wrong, but when the dreams start becoming more violent and twisted, he's caught up in this. I'm just a guy that's, I've got no say or any sort of control over this. I don't know how this is happening. And in a rather humorous scene towards the end, they start commercializing this ability of dreaming. So they're like, okay, well, let's get you holding up a Fanta, let's get you holding up a Sprite, and all those types of things. Other fizzy drink brands are available, but it's a good film. It's an hour and 40, tight little runtime, rated 15. So there's a couple sexual scenes in there, but again, played for laughs. And it wasn't really what I was expecting it to be, but I did enjoy it. But it's not really, if you want to go in for a laugh out loud time, it's not that at all. As I say, it's quite sad, quite depressing, because you just see this man's life completely fall apart, and it's it's weird how outlandish the premise is, but it's a cool idea, and it really has you the whole time thinking, what would I do if I was in this situation? And overall, I enjoyed it. Again, I'd recommend it. You can watch it on actually, I don't think it is on streaming at the moment, but you can buy it obviously on Amazon Prime. I bought the DVD, that's where I got it from. But yeah, interesting little film with Nick Cage, and he's playing quite I say down-to-earth character, but a lot more reserved than in some of his other roles. And yeah, it's good for what it is. And then finally, even though Alfie's not here, he has seen a few films in the last couple of weeks. He saw Femme just recently with George Mackay, I believe. And he's also seen the new mini-series, I think 7 episodes, I believe, on Netflix called Baby Reindeer. It's got a lot of traction online. Loads of people have been singing its praises. Actually, I'm just looking at it here, 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which is astounding. And I've heard it's very, very close to the bone and very open. And I've heard a lot of good things. But I'm going to throw over to Alfie because he's seen it. He's going to give you his thoughts. Let's see what he says.
And thank you for that, Adam. Yeah, so I'm going to review very briefly Baby Reindeer. That's the new mini-series on Netflix based on the true story. This one is kind of a weird one where it's both written by Richard Gadd and it's of his own experience, and then he also acts in it. So he's gone through this event. He's then written all of this. It was a few years ago, I believe. And then he is now acting it out, reliving his trauma almost. So kind of crazy as a start to think about that. So I watched this all in one go. I binged the entire series in one evening. So we sat down, switched it on. I've heard good things. My barber had said, yeah, give this a watch. It's crazy. And yeah, and sat down to watch it, and we stayed up till about 3 a.m. because we just watched all 7 episodes in one go. It's definitely that kind of one where it really grabs you the moment you start it, and the hook sort of starts in episode 3, and that's where you're like, wow, I need to watch the rest of this. I will say it has kind of ignited some faith in Netflix for sure, because I think they have been kind of lacking of late. I think there hasn't been anything super thought-provoking made by Netflix recently. And yeah, this is one where I've gone, wow, this got me thinking for sure. It's way darker than I thought it would be. It's definitely sort of, that first episode, you think maybe dark comedy. I believe the marketing was all pretty reliant on dark comedy, that kind of thing. But no, it's way darker and very disturbing. Especially by episode 3. So yeah, episode 1 and 2 sort of have that. It's sort of a dark comedy. It's still serious. It's a serious issue, but it lays sort of, yeah, it's quite not as twisted, let's say. And then by episode 3, the end of that gets a real sort of turn. And then episode 4 is insane, to be honest. It goes really, really in depth and stuff. So yeah, brace yourself, essentially. If you're triggered easily, brace yourself for episode 4. So it deals with issues like, obviously, stalking. It also touches on, like, homophobia, transphobia, mental health, sort of self-hate, sexual trauma and abuse. And it handles all of those issues so well. And obviously that's because the writer has experienced all those things. So it manages them well and touches on it really carefully and treats it with care. But it's also wears its heart on its sleeve. It is full on and will definitely possibly be triggering to anyone who's seen or sort of had those things happen to them for sure. So it follows Donnie Dunn, who is Richard Gadd's comedian persona, essentially. He's a struggling comedian, and then he works in a bar, and one day he meets Martha, who is played by Jessica Gunning, and you may know her I know her from Pride. That was the big role that I know her from. She's a great actor. Everyone in this is a great actor. And essentially his kindness ignites her obsession with him. And it takes a sort of slow journey in the first 3 episodes. And I knew it was a mini-series, and I thought it may be 5 episodes. And I got to episode 3 and I was like, oh, okay, it's wrapping up. And no, the second half of the show takes it somewhere you really don't think it's going to go. It gets really serious, really troubled. Yeah, it's a great 4 hours of TV. Each episode's around half hour, 40 minutes. So yeah, it's definitely bingeable, maybe on a Saturday sort of thing, or even after work when you get in, sit down and watch the whole thing. I think it definitely in one sitting, it has more of an effect on you. It's really good it definitely shows multiple sides of the story. Like in it, Richard is well aware that he has also done things that sort of aren't helping the situation, and he's to blame partially, and that is all there, and he is more than admitting that. Like, that is at front of it. It's everyone's a victim, essentially, is sort of the message. Yeah, it's gripping, it's thoughtful, it's a great portrayal of those things. It's thought provoking, and it definitely sticks with you for days. Like I was one of those ones where I finished watching, went to bed, couldn't get it off my mind for days after. You just keep thinking about it. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it already. I really imagine you have, if I'm honest, because it's going crazy. It's number one in the UK and America at the minute, which is kind of amazing for a small Netflix show by British talent set in and recorded in England. Yeah. All the performances are phenomenal. And like I just said, for a seemingly quite low budget miniseries, the artistic style too is great. The camera work and the atmosphere and the ambience it creates. Yeah, great show and highly recommend it.
Thank you very much, Alfie. That's brilliant. You've sold it. I'm definitely going to try and give this a watch, maybe when my dissertation is handed in and I've got a few less things on my plate. But wow, that brings us to the end of a bonus episode of Moving Up. Again, apologies that there's no full-on numbered episodes. It might be a little bit up in the air, as we said last week in our episodes with uploads, just due to university work and life. But as we say, Moving Up podcast is not going anywhere. We're still here. I thought it best to put out some content just to tide you over, wet your taste buds, that sort of thing. So thank you very much for all your support. You can follow us on Instagram. Our handle is @MovingUpPod. You can also follow us on TikTok as well. Give us a rating and let us know what you want to hear us talk about as well. Recommend any films you've seen, any shows you've seen. We're always, we're an open book here, and our ears and eyes are always on the lookout for a new movie to watch. So yeah, as I say, thank you very much for your support. And we'll be back very soon with another edition of Moving Up Podcast. Hit the music, baby!